Recording has started.
Thank you and welcome to the meeting of the Executive Cabinet Member, Climate Change and Environment. I'm Councillor Richard Sylvester. I am the Cabinet Member for Climate Change and Environment. This meeting is taking place on Monday, the 12th of February 2024. So could I thank Bolton Council officers, Bolton councillors and to members of the public if you're watching this recorded version on the Bolton Council YouTube channel. So item 1 on the agenda is the monitoring of Executive Cabinet Member decisions. This was sent out by email previous to this meeting to everyone. Any comments at all on the monitoring reports? No, I think a couple can come off, and there is an update, I'm told, regarding the shopping trolley consultation, which should start tomorrow. It said in the monitoring report that it would start on the 8th of January, but I'm informed by my assistant director that it will start tomorrow. Okay, so we'll move on to item 2. This is the Directorate of Place Finance Report 2023-2024, quarter 3. And we'll go over to Janet Pollard, who will take us through this report.
Thank you, Councillor Sylvester. This is the quarter 3 finance report for the whole of the Directorate of Place. The Directorate's currently projecting a year-end balance of £685,000 overspent. For this portfolio, it's £222,000 overspent. The main variance for this portfolio relates to the planning division. Oh, sorry, that's a previous meeting. Sorry about that. Key financial findings can be found on page 3 and service-specific findings can be found on page 17, which is Appendix 2. The Executive Cabinet members requested to note the contents of the report and also we're seeking approvals within the report. I'm happy to take any questions.
So I'll open this up to questions. Anyone on the call, just indicate or shout out if you wish to do. Nobody's indicated or shouted out, so I will note the quarter 3 financial position of the Director of Place, approve revisions made to capital programme which fall under my portfolio, authorise the Director of Place to call off under any available frameworks to enable the capital programme to progress, and also note the key findings of the report. So therefore we'll go to item 3 on the agenda. This is the Mosesgate Country Park designation of contemplation space. So John Gregory will take us through this report.
Thank you, Councillor. It has been in front of you before this one. We've been away to do a little bit more consultation with a couple of key stakeholders, but this is the report that's requesting that the council designates a particular space within Mosesgate Country Park as a contemplative, or I prefer the term reflective, it's just a bit easier to say, it rolls off the tongue a little bit better, a reflective space. Been requested originally by a member of the public who'd suffered bereavement as a result of suicide, and this is a space that people can go and spend some time and reflect on either mental health issues or suicide related issues. Somebody's bereaved or if somebody's suffering from mental health issues. So we were asked to go away and then update the report with a little bit of consultation that we did with a couple of stakeholders. That's been done. We've come to a satisfactory conclusion with that. I don't intend to go through the full report if that's all right. But the report's there. It's been circulated around. If anybody's got any questions, obviously you're welcome to ask me about it.
Absolutely, and thank you very much, John, for the work which you've undertaken on this. And I'll open this up to questions from members. Nobody's indicating, so I take it everybody's happy with that. I'm very happy to approve this report, the formal designation of the contemplative space in Mosesgate Country Park, as per the site plan attached to Appendix 1. And I also delegate authority to the Director of Place in consultation with myself to bring forward development of this space in a manner which is appropriate to its use as a contemplative space. So that report is approved. Thank you, John. So we'll go over to sorry. Okay.
I was just thanking.
Sorry, I missed what you said, but thank you for your work on that. So we'll go over to Nicola Farrell next, who's going to take us through item 4, which is the Bolton Climate Change Strategy Annual Report 2022-23. Nicola.
Thanks, Councillor Sylvester. Members will have seen the papers, obviously in advance of this meeting, and we obviously had the place scrutiny last Wednesday where we discussed this. So I wasn't intending to go through this in an incredible amount of detail, but just to pick out a few highlights. So just to remind you, and I'm sure members are already aware, the climate change strategy is a strategy not just for the council, but for the vision partners and organisations within the town. This is the second annual report, and it covers the reporting period September 22, September 23, and it provides an overview of the achievements and sets out some key priorities for the following year. And it is accompanied by a delivery plan, which contains the 32 key performance indicators for the strategy. So it will be returned into a public-facing document by marketing and communications. And along with that delivery plan, it's going to be available on the council's website. So it's structured into these 6 work areas we call pillars. And the first one is called governance and climate leadership. So just to pick out a couple of things there, we talk about the work that Bolton's Fund has done on supporting climate change projects, the tree planting that's been done with City of Trees, and the fact that 56% of actions are complete in the Green Plan. Priorities for next year include working together as a partnership to deliver those climate change projects in Bolton. For homes, communities and wellbeings, the key achievements include the £2 million secured by Bolton at Home for Social Housing Decarbonisation Fund, the first school street in Bolton at St Peter's in Farnworth, and all the active travel schemes that have continued to progress. Priorities for the next year include promoting the energy efficiency scheme, including the GM local energy demonstrator, continuing with the active travel schemes. When we talk about building transport and operations, we talk about the carbon management plan that's been produced by the council, which shows a reduction of 23% CO2 emissions since 2019. The heat network has been awarded some funding, and the priorities include continuing to reduce the amount of energy used by the street lighting, and the Bolton NHS are doing a plan to reduce their carbon emissions. The next priority or pillar is about natural environment and climate change resilience, and the achievements in this area include Lancashire Wildlife Trust securing the funding from the peatland restoration project to restore 417 hectares of peatland, which includes the council-owned site Red Moss. Swift bricks has been included in a housing development in Brakemet. Invasive species have been tackled on Bradshaw Brook. And priorities for the next year include more tree planting and development and green spaces projects by the Bolton Green Umbrella using UK SPF funding. Skills for Sustainable Future is the next pillar, and that includes all the incredible work that the Woodland Trust have done up at Smithills Estate, creating the 11 social enterprises and the 2 community interest companies, and also hosting the events, which is creating a lot of opportunities for people to learn new skills. Bolton at Home have also trained 45 of their skilled tradespeople to fit and maintain renewable energy technologies. And the University of Bolton was a finalist in the Green Gown Awards. Priorities for the next year include a project with the University of Bolton, Bolton at Home and the Council on upcycling furniture, and a rollout of a food waste study in Horwich. The last pillar is called Employability, Entrepreneurship and Innovation. And this is where the GM's Green Growth Team has supported small and medium-sized enterprises in Bolton. 15 Bolton SMEs were engaged with this support, and that saved nearly 178 tonnes of carbon. The Proper Good Support Programme has continued to provide a wide range of support to social enterprises. So priorities for next year in this area include the Greater Manchester Business School. I'm going to hold a net zero business conference in Bolton in May 2024, and the Proper Good support programme will be offering sustainability checkups to support social enterprise to become more sustainable. So in terms of the next steps, this report is ultimately a performance report coming to you, Councillor, for information. And moving forward, we want to bring the annual report in line with the financial year, just for ease of reporting. So rather than this September to September reporting cycle, the next annual report will therefore be published in late spring 2025. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much, Nicola. So I'll open this report up to questions as well. And we'll go over to Councillor Mayor, first of all, and then Councillor Muslim afterwards.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Nicola. Yes, you're right, it was debated. It was presented as the place scrutiny, and it was debated at great detail, if I recall. I'm not going to go over any in any depth, but I'd like to just sum a couple of things up there. The debate, there was discussion around the KPI, which you presented a slide on KPI, but there was no figures on that. You did a good update, and thank you very much for that. And there was a discussion on dates, and I won't labour those points, but I think key layout of dates and road mapping of how you're going to get there, and target of carbon reduction will be able to the reader will be able to see how we're tracking when you come back to present future reports. Are we on track? Are we not on track? And what adjustments are being made? So I'd just like to just sum up then, just by saying that some of those points then hopefully you've captured and will be amended to the public facing document, so therefore the public themselves can see how things are moving. Those are just the points, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Mayor. And we'll go over to Councillor Muslim.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, apologies, I wasn't able to attend the scrutiny meeting, so if anything I cover is repeating that, then I apologise in advance. I suppose first question is maybe Nicola can answer. Is obviously we've set a different target in Bolton. Full council decided to go earlier than the rest of the country, really, and GM. So based on what this report and what you know, is 2030 achievable?
We'll bring in the director there. We did have a full discussion on this at the place scrutiny. It's the aim and ambition of this present administration to get to 2030, and we will see if we get to 2030. It's 6 years off yet, and I know that that target, it is a high benchmark, but it is good to be ambitious. So that's what we're heading towards. But John, we did have a full discussion at scrutiny, but John will also come in as well.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I mean, to some degree, mindful that Councillor Muslim had to send apologies last week. I'm conscious that you weren't able to be in the room, but it was really just to reiterate that there was quite an extensive discussion in relation to trajectory, and I think my comments really were to reiterate those made on the evening, which is that there is obviously a strong ambition to achieve net zero carbon at the earliest opportunity, and at this present moment in time that target is set at 2030. I think there was recognition that there will be hopefully additional funding will become available to support the council's efforts, but equally this remains a challenging target, and I think work emerging from the carbon management plan will give us a real sense of direction. I think without a shadow of a doubt, decarbonisation of the estate from the council's perspective is the biggest challenge, and we talked on the evening about appointments of an energy manager, somebody who will I guess be able to work with the wider team to understand the realities of decarbonising the estate. But of course the carbon management plan will also pick up things like fleet replacement strategy, procurement opportunities, and so on and so forth. So I think right now not to avoid the question, Councillor Muslim, but I think probably just to reiterate that there was quite extensive debate, as Councillor May has indicated, on the evening, and at this point in time, the executive cabinet member has I suppose, echoed, reinforced, restated the administration's view that we should remain ambitious with our targets and continue to drive towards net zero carbon, but equally recognises the challenge associated with carbon reduction and the many dependencies which were outlined in the original report to Cabinet when we adopted the climate change strategy. So I'll pause there. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, John. I mean, it's a lot of words. What we're saying is it's probably not achievable, because what we're saying is it's ambitious. And ambitious is a word that people use to say, well, we're hoping to get in that direction, but actually we're probably not going to, is the sense I'm getting from this. And I appreciate you may have discussed this at the scrutiny committee. As I say, I wasn't there, but also I think the public has a right to hear and have these questions asked, even if it is a repeat of what some other people may have asked previously. But okay, so it's not achievable then, is what we're saying. I mean, it's interesting as well. I mean, obviously, Councillor Sylvester, a political point, but so the Labour Party itself now is reversing its plans on £28 million worth of green investment. And John Dyson's just said there that we are relying on funds from elsewhere to help fund this. So if that is the case, that the Labour Party do win the next general election, then I don't know where we're expecting as a council and a local authority to get that money from to help us reach this ambitious 2030 goal, because actually the government's not committed to it, the current government, and the main opposition party has also said they're actually not committed to it because they reversed their £28 million pledge, billion pound pledge. So I guess achievability is just not going to happen. I mean, leads on to our second question. The report mentions sort of significant costs, I think is the phrase that is used in the financial implications, 4.1. So I suppose, what can anyone quantify what those significant costs are, and who's going to bear the brunt of those significant costs?
Right, John, do you wish to come in on that one?
Yeah. Forgive me, Councillor Muslim. I'm probably repeating again a point that was made last week at the scrutiny committee, but it was just to say, as indicated last week and has been referenced, I believe, previously, but there is no dedicated budget per se for climate change activity, but across obviously each of the services, then we have both revenue and capital funding, which we are where we have projects, initiatives, schemes coming forward to have opportunity to drive carbon reduction. Then we are certainly looking to do that, whether that be through our highways capital programme, whether it be through our fleet replacement strategy, which is entirely reliant upon capital allocation. But of course, as you've just alluded to and I did earlier, certainly some of the work which is undertaken or has taken place and is referenced in the report is very much predicated on funding. So we continue to seek out new external funding opportunities, whether that be in relation to decarbonisation of some of our schools estate through the Public Sector Decarbonisation Fund, whether it be in relation to electric vehicle charging infrastructure through funding that we bid for via TFGM. So I think I'm going to say at this point in time, impossible to say what the cost will be to achieve net zero carbon within the timescales which were initially identified in the strategy. What we will do is a piece of work to understand what we have secured in terms of funding and where we've committed expenditure, and that's something that the team are currently looking at this point in time. But as I say, in the absence of a dedicated budget for climate change, we're very much reliant upon deploying the resources that we have available across the council to maximise opportunities to reduce carbon reduction.
Right. Okay. So what we're saying is there is no funding at the moment for it. We are wholly reliant then on grant funding. So what we're saying is we're hoping for a bit of luck to come our way, and because there's no guarantee that we will get any of those grants, or grants will even exist in the future. So surely, if you want to tackle this, what you're saying is the council will probably have to raise revenue and therefore probably taxes to actually fund some of this work, because if the government's not going to give you any money and you're not generating any through capital or anything like that, then tax rises would be a I suppose a reasonable assumption that would have to be made, that to fund this climate change ambition?
Look, I'll just come in there because the government has just awarded us 11 million for the heat network, and the government has awarded previous monies as well. So there is monies available from government. The heat network, once the viability study has been completed, if that goes ahead, that would be a significant boost towards the climate change strategy and carbon reduction in our council buildings, especially the town hall. So we'll see if money is available from government, whichever colour. I would suggest it's more likely from the party which I'm a member of, if we are in government later this year. But we will see. We will head towards 2030. That is what the council decided back in 2019. That wasn't changed under the administration which you was a member of. That date wasn't changed when you was executive cabinet member. You had an opportunity to do that if you had concerns, but you never changed that date. The date remains the same with myself as executive cabinet member as well. John, did you just want to come back in at all?
It was only just to cite one or two examples. So I think certainly funding opportunity is undoubtedly a significant contributor to some of the work that we're trying to achieve. But it would be it wouldn't be the case to say that we're entirely dependent upon external funding, because as I indicated, we do have capital allocations to support investments in some of our services, which ultimately will, as I say, will drive carbon reduction. So as I say, in terms of engineering technology in the capital programme for our highway scheme, the team are continually seeking opportunities to drive out carbon reduction. We will be looking at things which were subject of recent consultation, for example, in relation to streetlight dimming programmes, which again will drive carbon reduction. Our sustainable waste management strategy is very much focused upon existing revenue budgets to improve and increase attempts across the community in relation to waste minimisation, recycling, and etc. So I think it is a blend of capital funding, revenue spend, where we seek to, I guess, not just in terms of biggest bang for our buck in terms of value for money, but biggest bang for our buck in terms of carbon reduction opportunity as well. But of course, absolutely, external funding opportunity is very much part of the approach moving forward. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you, John. And we'll go over to Councillor Mayor.
Thank you. I'd like to. I'll put my hand up because I've just listened to the conversation. I'd just like to add my sixpenny thought to that as well. And thanks for that response as well, John. I think you've given some good examples there. That it's not necessarily everything down to external funding. I think there's 2 points I'd like to just re-emphasise is. Yes, the changing sands do occur. So it's important that we have the right data to start off with, so you know what the baseline is and you know where you're heading, and you quantify it and you measure it as you go along. So it was good to hear that you're looking at an energy manager, and time and effort should be spent in determining that data. So therefore, if the sand does shift, you've still got quantitative evidence to show that you've actually contributed to carbon reduction by this point in time, and I think that's really important. The cost of changes, yes, you can get external funding. That's great. It's fantastic. But there's a couple of benefits here. There is the carbon reduction. There's other particulates that are also reduced as well, which are harmful to us and our children. Etc. But there's also, if you invest, you will invest for the future. So when you're designing something, you will need to design it, and each technology you put in there, yes, it does cost, but there will be at a point in time where it will have achieved a payback because it'll be more efficient. It will reduce carbon, but it will also be more efficient, and therefore that payback period might be 6 years, it might be 15 years, depending on the technology you put in. So I think that needs to be built into the information that you're providing in your business cases that you're developing. So they're just a couple of points from me. I think what we can't accept is having something as too difficult to do. Too difficult to do is not an option we can take. You know, we have a duty of care, we have a duty of responsibility with regards to of the environment for everybody that lives in our borough, you know, and those that are coming in the future, our children, our grandchildren, our grandchildren. So just a couple of points there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor May, and I couldn't agree more with you from those comments which you've made. So I'm going to note the contents of the Bolton Climate Change Strategy Annual Report 2022-2023, so that report is noted. And could I just thank Nicola and John for all the work which you've been doing on the climate change strategy and for the successful bid for the Bolton District Heat Network. That was fantastic. And more to come over on that in the next year or so. So we'll go on to item 5, which is the procurement of traffic management and verge maintenance of high-speed roads. And John, are you taking us through this one?
I think Laurie's actually going to lead on this report, Chair. Thank you.
Sorry, that's great. Laurie's going to take us through this. Laurie Hunter.
Okay, thank you. So this is a standard contract that we run every 4 to 5 years to maintain our high-speed roads. So that's roads like St. Peter's Way to Haviland Way, anything sort of that's 50 miles an hour and over. We need to put in place a number of safety measures to enable us to manage traffic and ensure that we're protecting any individuals working on the road, as well as enabling us to procure in kind of specialist equipment for things like trees that are incredibly high or bushes and that sort of thing. So this procurement, the only difference with this one that we're doing, different to last year's, we're offering, we're wanting the staff management side of things to be optional. So we may have, which we've been trialing over the last year, we're likely to have enough staff to deliver the verge maintenance element ourselves with our in-house staff. And that's enabling us to manage costs a little bit better as they've gone up quite a bit over the last year. So we're essentially looking to procure similar to what we've done previously. So it's a 4+1 contract. I won't go through the very nitty-gritty details of the report. It doesn't mean we've got additional staff. We think we can do it within core time. And those roads such as St. Peter's Way, we tend to get enough interest from our existing staff on an overtime rate. So it enables us to manage our costs, enables us to upskill some of our existing staff, and it enables us to manage performance a little bit better when we're using our own staff. However, the sort of safety precautions and road closures, we would continue to use the contractor for. So I think that's a flavour for the report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Laurie. I'll open this one up to questions as well from members. Yes, Councillor Muslin.
Thank you, Chair. So just on the, obviously, you talk about cost savings in-house then. So have you actually, I mean, forgive me, I can say, but have you actually quantified what the cost savings are then by bringing this in-house, or elements of this in-house?
So it's more around managing increasing costs. So what we expect is the market is going up essentially around 20% for various staffing costs, products, that sort of thing. So if we're using our own staff, then it enables us to manage that a little bit better. Right,
but if we are giving sort of generous pay increases to our staff, and we are not immune to other sort of global costs, energy, fuel price, you know, and all these sorts of products, and just general inflation, are we not just talking about half a dozen one, 6 of the other here? It just seems like actually it's not going to make that much of a difference, I suppose.
Not necessarily, because it means that we're not paying sort of a market supplement for the staffing element of the contract. That's what we're trying to save for with regards to this contract. We'll still have it in as an option where we find that that option is cheaper to bring in the contractor staff, and we will take that on. However, we're also lining up our own staff to ensure that we're getting best value for money.
And that would include, obviously, talk about this profit margin element of or using a private contractor. But how would that compare though to, you know, you're talking about actually using overtime here for staff to do this work. So actually we're going to be paying them more anyway. So is it actually, once you factor in the, I appreciate it might be cheaper if you get them on the same rate they're on, but if you're paying them overtime to do the work, actually, is it still going to be as an effective cost saving as you're envisaging?
So not all of them are done on overtime. Some are done within core hours. As we've programmed in over the last couple of years, we've been doing some high-speed roads, quite a few of them over the last couple of years, using our own staff, as it's provided us with that higher performance, that better cost. This is really just about repeating that in a more formal arrangement with our contract. So it's ensuring that optional extra with regards to verge maintenance. We may still need it. We may not get enough volunteers, say, on overtime. So St. Peter's Way, for example, you're right, is done on overtime. We can't avoid that because it's such a major route into Bolton. Closure of that road during busy hours wouldn't be the best solution for Bolton. But some of the smaller roads like Victoria Road, for example, K Street, those we can do within normal operational core hours, and we have been doing over the last couple of years. Does that make sense? That answer your question?
Yeah. And just lastly then, would the element of flexibility you're looking for in the in any sort of contract, would that actually increase the cost because you'd be less? I suppose, businesses work on a way that it's structured, they know what they're doing, they can plan for that. And usually then you pay a premium for wanting more flexibility in it. Are we going to have to pay a premium, do you think, because we're going to ask for that flexibility?
Yeah, we did think about that when we did our sort of market analysis. So we would need to give, but we think the market would want to enable them to plan, as you say, is they'll want a certain amount of notice. So we would ensure that we'd give them, I think we built in, was it a month's notice, 6 weeks notice, something like that before every closure, whether or not we'd need that staffing. So they should be getting quite a bit of notice to enable their own staff management.
And would that potentially though increase the cost because of that flexibility?
Well, we've reflected what the market was suggesting at that point in time. So I think if we only gave 7 days notice, yes, that would increase the cost because they would need to very quickly bring staff in, potentially at a higher rate. But because we're providing quite a bit of notice, we think that gives us the right balance. So I don't know if John wants to come in as well.
Through you, Chair. Thanks, Laurie. I mean, sure. I think just to reiterate that I mean, they're all very pertinent questions, Councillor Muslim. I think questions that the team have contemplated during this process. I guess essentially what we're trying to do is to bring a flexibility into this contractual arrangement moving forward, which enables us to deploy resources internally. And if we are able to create the capacity to be able to do that, then there is a view that on balance we will make a saving, whether that will be a nominal saving in the first instance, whether it will be a larger saving. I guess only time will tell. I think the key is that if we establish that we don't have that capacity within the service, then as Laurie's indicated, we will need to move quickly to ensure that there is advance notice so that we still secure a competitive rate. But I think to some degree, we probably don't have a definitive position in terms of what level of saving, if any, we will make this year. But what we are trying to do is to bring in that flexibility to bring about opportunity to be able to deploy internal resources. And I think that's certainly the view that we are taking at this moment in time, that is achievable over the course of the contract term. But as I say, I think it's difficult to say at today's date just exactly what that will look like. But it does bring flex to us that we perhaps haven't had via the previous contract, Laurie. That would be fair to say. It
is, yes, it would.
Okay, that's fine. That's interesting. Thank you. Interesting just to note that we two items on the agenda today that we can't be quite definitive on. So
well, it does say quite clear in the report 2.3 that costs are likely to increase by 20% on the current budget envelope, which is 60,000. Now that would go up to about 72. What the service is trying to do is to keep it says in 2.4 to keep that within the current budget envelope of 60,000. So that would be a saving of those 20% increased costs. But what I also have to consider is at 2.6 that the service is regaining direct control over the quality and cost of maintenance services on highways. So if part of this service can be brought in-house, that we are regaining control over that service. So as far as I'm concerned, there's two positives here. One, that it's kept within the current budget envelope, and two, that we are regaining direct control of that service. So therefore, I am happy to authorise the Director of Place to procure and appoint a successful tenderer that meets the Council's requirement for high-speed road traffic management and associated verge maintenance services, with an option to provide some in-house services from within the neighbourhood delivery team where resources allow, in accordance with the Council standing orders related to contracts. Also to authorise the Borough Solicitor to carry out all the necessary legal formalities, and also to authorise the Borough Treasurer to carry out all the necessary financial formalities. So that report is approved. Thank you for those questions, however, Councillor Muslin. They were very important ones that you were quite right to ask. So that report's approved. It brings us to the end of this Executive Cabinet member meeting. So thank you everybody for your attendance.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Sylvester. I'll just stop the recording now.